The following clips were recorded inside a house, capturing a pattern of activity that's been escalating for some time. Lights cutting out without explanation, unexplained sounds, and something that the security cameras have been quietly documenting long after the people inside went to sleep. It starts with something subtle. In the early hours of January 24th of 2026, at around 3:26 in the morning, this happened. Watch. The main ceiling light shuts off completely and then flickers back on just 2 seconds later, with no one near any switch. What makes this specific clip stand out isn't just the light itself, it's how often it happens. That pattern, recurring, location-specific, tied to that same fixture, is exactly what investigators often associate with poltergeist activity, a term used to describe disturbances that center on a specific space and tend to intensify over time. The next clip raises the stakes considerably. Around 11:42 p.m. on January 12th of 2026, the husband had a terrifying experience. Watch closely.
Guy that says, you know what, I'm gonna do. Oh shit! What is that?
That night, the couples had a serious disagreement, so the wife decided to leave and stay at her mom's for the night. But a few hours later, he called her completely freaked out, and she honestly couldn't even understand what he was trying to say. She went back home and found him sitting in his truck, refusing to come inside. In the video, there was a loud knocking with absolutely no visible source. Some viewers have pointed towards something territorial, but what happened next might be the most unsettling of all. Watch. A phone shifts on its own, followed by a vape sliding unnaturally across the surface. Small movements that shouldn't be possible without direct contact, especially under normal household conditions. And when viewers try to dismiss the phone movement as a vibration from a call, that explanation immediately collapses under one key detail. The phone was completely dead, with no power source, no incoming signal, nothing that could produce movement through vibration. Some viewers have suggested something far more unsettling, pointing toward the idea of territorial presence, a type of phenomenon often described in paranormal cases where an unseen force appears to assert control over a space, reacting strongly when boundaries are crossed or when emotional conflict occurs within the home. In some interpretations, heightened emotional states like arguments or distress are believed to act almost like a trigger, amplifying whatever presence may already be there. The next clip shifts the atmosphere again, and this time, it's the wife documenting something her cats have been responding to for days. She calls to her black cat Boo, who is frozen at the far end of a hallway, pressed against the floor near a doorway, refusing to move. Listen closely.
Look, he won't even come in here. Look at Boo. Boo won't even come into the living room or the kitchen. And he's whining. Come here, Boo. What's the matter, Boo Bears? Come here, Boo. What's the matter, Boo? Come here. Boo. Snacks, treats. Come on. Look at that. Boo Bears, treats.
She tries everything, calling his name, shaking a treat bag, scattering treats on the floor directly in front of the kitchen. And Boo doesn't move, just a drawn-out, plaintive meow, and then stillness. She mentions that electronics in the home have been switching on by themselves, that the cats avoid specific areas, and that the house is mid-renovation. A detail that's come up before in similar cases, since remodeling is believed by many to disturb whatever energy is already settled in a space, loosening something that had been quiet. Boo's behavior reportedly continued for 3 days. There's something specific about a cat that refuses treats. That's not a behavioral quirk, that's fear overriding instinct entirely. The last clip comes from a daytime recording, April 1st of 2026, just after 1 in the afternoon. And the daylight doesn't make it any less uncomfortable. Watch. She's noted that it only happens when she's alone. The moment someone else is in the house, it stops. That detail is what makes this harder to dismiss, because whatever is making those sounds seems to know the difference. So what do you make of a home where the lights cut out on their own, an unidentifiable sound sends a grown man running into the street, a cat refuses to enter certain rooms for 3 consecutive days, and loud unexplained bangs follow a woman from room to room only when she's by herself? Something in that house is aware, and awareness, in cases like this, is usually where things start to get worse. Now in this next clip, a woman is sitting in her living room in Tucson, calmly recounting one of the strangest nights her family has ever experienced, and she has the security footage to back every word of it. She and her husband had gotten their daughter's mannequin heads to practice hairstyling on, and on the night of July 1st of 2025, the whole family was downstairs together watching a documentary about Scientology. Her youngest daughter had been playing with one of the mannequins earlier, but got bored and left it sitting on a countertop behind the couch, facing away from everyone and toward the dining room. Nobody thought anything of it. That was just where it had been left. What the family didn't know, and what their living room security camera was quietly recording the entire time, is that the mannequin wasn't staying put. Watch.
You see that I'm just over there kind of bored, winding some yarn. We're all just kind of watching this documentary on creepy Scientology, which makes the event even creepier. So just keep your eyes on that mannequin, because she's gonna make a there she goes. That's her biggest move. She's now looking, but none of us noticed this yet. It takes a little while before I look over and say, what? Wasn't she looking in the dining room? So there we are, still oblivious to the fact that she turned her head completely towards us. There, she moved away a little bit. She looked back to the left. Here's clip 2. My little girl jumped off the couch, ran over to me. I'm frantically telling my husband, oh my God, she just looked at me. My daughter's covering her mouth. I'm like, oh my God. He's looking behind, there's nothing there. I'm covering my face like, oh my God, I cannot believe this happened. And now I'm gesturing at the living room camera, saying, get your phone. You've got to look at this. You've got to look at that footage. There I am gesturing over and over. My daughter's got her mouth covered. Our hearts, hand over our hearts, we cannot believe what we've just seen. The mannequin moved a total of 5 times that we can see on the video.
The security footage, shot in black and white from a wide-angle corner camera, shows all 4 family members in the living room completely absorbed in whatever's on TV. And in the background, up on that counter, the mannequin head slowly turns. Not once, but several times. First a small turn toward the room, then back slightly, then a sharper turn directly toward the man on the couch. Nobody notices. Not a single person looks up. Some viewers immediately pointed to object possession. The idea that an effigy or human-shaped form can attract or even anchor a presence, acting as a kind of focal point for energy that's already in a space. Others think the earlier incident with their dog Rosie, who had growled and barked intensely at that same mannequin when it was in the kitchen, suggests something had already attached itself to the object well before this night. That detail is harder to dismiss. Animals reacting to an object before any human witnesses anything is a pattern that shows up in a lot of these cases. The family has lived in that house for 9 years without anything like this happening, which makes it even harder to explain away as a recurring environmental cause. Whatever made that head turn, it did it slowly, deliberately, and more than once, like it was deciding which direction to face. So, what do you think was moving it? Now, in this next clip, a woman working the night shift at a hospital starts picking up on something she can't quite explain. A faint, high-pitched sound drifting through the hallway, quiet enough that you'd almost convince yourself it wasn't there. She's filming on her phone as she moves through the corridor, and a male colleague in blue scrubs stops beside her, both of them going still, listening. Listen closely.
Did you hear her?
Yes.
You hear her?
We woke them up.
She probably think I'm her mom. That was you.
No, I swear to God. Was that something? Bitch, come on.
That soft humming sound in the background coming from no visible source in the hallway and above that says mama. Her colleague confirms he hears it too, which rules out the easy dismissal that it was just ambient noise playing tricks on one person. Hospitals are not like ordinary buildings because they are places where life and death intersect constantly, where emotions run at their highest and lowest points, where moments of relief, fear, loss, and desperation happen every single day, often leaving behind what many believe to be a kind of residual imprint. So what exactly were they hearing moving through that hallway in the middle of the night? You decide. In this next clip, 2 women decided to explore a commercial children's play structure after hours. Completely alone, no kids, no staff, just the 2 of them crawling through tunnels and plastic tunnels lit only by the building's ambient lighting. The one filming moves erratically through the colored slides and padded bars, her red painted nails occasionally catching the frame as she pulls herself through openings. It's the kind of place that feels completely different at night. All that cheerful plastic suddenly feeling a little wrong without the sound of actual children filling it. And then, at around the 21-second mark, something filled it. Listen closely.
I went to the left.
Okay, I'm gonna go to the right. Okay, this is my POV. This is really hard. I feel too big to do this.
Do you feel us out of breath as I am?
Yeah. Wait, where'd you go, left or right?
I went left.
Which way do I go? I feel like I'm in Alice in Wonderland. Okay, she went that way. Freaky. Yours is brighter, mine's all dark. Okay. You guys, I can't do this. I feel like I keep bonking my head too. That's crazy. There's like actually down here. This is literally for human hamsters. Oh my god, someone bashed in this window. I feel like this is plastic. Some 12-year-old boy got pissed off when his mom said that he couldn't go out of it. This is where I am. This is what I climbed. This is where I'm going. Okay, where are you? It shocked me, I knew it. It shocked me 3 times. Okay, where'd you go? What? Okay, we're in an abandoned playground.
The word wasn't coming.
Where did we start? We started here.
That voice, brief, high-pitched, unmistakably childlike, says what sounds like hi or hey, and nobody responds. No gasp, no reaction, nothing. Just silence. Then the scraping of plastic and netting as she keeps moving. The 2 women were the only ones there, and they knew it. Some viewers think what you heard was residual energy, the acoustic impression of thousands of children who'd played in that exact space, somehow preserved and replayed in an empty building. Others point to the name scrawled in black marker inside the structure, Hi Peggy, and wonder if whoever left that greeting wasn't just writing on the walls. A child's voice in an empty playground is already unsettling enough, but one that says hello back? That's something else entirely. The following video was recorded by the home security camera of a woman named Carla, who for several weeks had been noticing a pattern she couldn't ignore. Every night at around 10 p.m., her dogs would begin barking in the same direction, reacting as if something was there even though she couldn't see anything herself. At first, it seemed like one of those things you explain away, maybe a stray animal, a passing shadow, or something just outside the camera's range, but the consistency of it happening at the exact same time every night made it harder to dismiss. Eventually, she decided to go back and review the footage during one of those moments, hoping to finally understand what had been triggering her dog's watch. As the footage plays, something unusual begins to move, and at first glance, its shape and motion are unclear enough that her immediate thought was that it could be something like a UFO or an unusual light anomaly passing by. However, as it continues moving, the form becomes more defined, and what starts to emerge looks far more structured than a simple light, taking on the outline of a full human body, complete with what appears to be a face, before it passes out of view. After sharing the clip, the reactions she received were anything but ordinary, with some viewers suggesting that what was captured could be a demonic presence or even a fallen angel. There are also those who approach it from a different angle, suggesting that what appears in the footage could be something mimicking human form without actually being human, which would explain why it initially looks undefined before becoming clear as it moves. So, what exactly was caught on Carla's camera that night? A trick of light, Something explainable that only looks strange on video, or something moving through her property that isn't supposed to be there at all? You decide. Now, if you've been following this channel for a while, then you'll definitely recognize this house. The 263-year-old colonial home, known for its eerie attic and its deeply unsettling collection of dolls, has built a reputation over time that many viewers now describe as one of the scariest houses in America. And once you look into the history of what's been happening there, it becomes easier to understand why. Over the years, the owners have documented a wide range of unexplained activity, including shadowy apparitions moving from room to room, the sound of heavy footsteps echoing through the house when no one else is inside, disembodied voices that seem to come from nowhere in particular, and even their cat reacting in ways that suggest it is tracking something invisible as it moves through the space. One night this was captured on camera.
My phone just started dying and the notification did scare the shit out of me. Just did my skincare. And I am going back downstairs.
In the footage, the light inside the bathroom begins flickering, but what unsettles many viewers is the timing, because the moment she walks into the bathroom, the flickering stops completely, as if whatever was affecting the light suddenly ceased the second it was no longer alone. Another thing that truly made people uncomfortable came later, when one viewer pointed something out that others hadn't initially noticed: a face, caught for a brief moment. With everything that's already been reported in this house, it becomes difficult not to question every detail. Because when a place already has a history of movement, voices, and unexplained reactions from both people and animals, even the smallest visual anomaly starts to feel significant. For now, this one remains unsolved. In this next video, a security guard working at an Aurora store shares a series of experiences that have gradually turned his routine night shifts into something far more unsettling than anyone would expect from a retail environment. What should have been a quiet job, mostly consisting of walking the aisles, checking doors, and making sure everything is in place, has instead become a pattern of strange occurrences that seem to follow him throughout the store. One day, while still on duty, he hears a strange noise coming from one of the aisles, something distinct enough to make him stop and investigate rather than dismiss it. Watch.
Otra vez están escuchando ruidos. Estaba aquí haciendo el recorrido, pero escuché un ruido aquí adentro. No sé si estaba crujiendo algo o no sé si... No sé. Qué raro. Ya no sé realmente qué hacer. Todo me extraña de este lado. Ya no sé qué hacer. Ya realmente no sé qué es lo que voy a hacer. Ya no entiendo ni qué es lo que está... ¿Qué cojones? No mames. Sácate a la verga, al chile, pinche mamada. Su puta madre. ¿Qué es eso? ¿Hay alguien ahí? ¿Qué es eso? ¿Qué se ve ahí al fondo? Oh, no mames. ¿Qué tal?
From that point on, his shifts seem to revolve around trying to make sense of what is causing these disturbances, as he moves through the store, checking corners, scanning aisles, and responding to sounds that never seem to have a clear source. In another video he shared, viewers finally notice something. Watch.
Se asomó y la verdad me da mucho miedo estar viniendo a asomarme para acá. ¿Qué es eso? Se está moviendo el carro. Soy yo, se está moviendo esa mierda. No mames, se está moviendo. ¿Qué mierda pasa aquí? ¿Qué mierda está pasando? Se está moviendo esa porquería. No te muevas, no te muevas. No, 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 no.
This time, it is not just the trolley moving on its own that draws attention, but a figure that appears briefly, positioned in a way that suggests it is watching him rather than simply passing through. What surprised many people, however, was his response when asked whether this only happens at night, because according to him, the activity does not follow a schedule. This is what his day at work looks like.
Desde hace rato se ve como que esa cinta se está moviendo. Y la verdad ya me está dando como un poco de miedo porque por todo lo que ha estado pasando ya ni sé qué realmente es lo que voy a hacer. Ya nada más me pongo yo mismo nervioso, ya no sé qué es lo que pasa aquí. No mames. Otra vez no, otra vez no, otra vez no, otra vez no, otra vez no. Ya, por favor, ya que ya no pasen estas cosas. Anda que me está dando un chingo de mí. No mames, no, sácate a la verga ya. No mames, ¿por qué? ¿Por qué me pasan estas cosas a mí? ¿Por qué? Ya no quiero que me pase nada de esto, por favor. Ya no sé ni a dónde mierda esconderme. No mames, ya.
Even during the day, when the store should feel more active and grounded, there are still moments where objects move in ways that don't make sense, creating the impression that whatever is present does not rely on darkness or isolation to exist. But until more updates are shared, this remains unsolved. The following video was recorded by a man named Rody, who, at this point, has gone weeks without a proper night's sleep, all because of a persistent knocking sound that begins late at night and continues for hours without stopping. It isn't occasional or random, but something that happens every single night with enough consistency to wear him down, forcing him to lie awake listening to a sound he cannot trace or explain. After enduring this for over a month, he finally decides to confront it, even though it means stepping outside his house at around 3 a.m. and walking toward the exact area where the knocking always seems to come from. Watch.
Chicos, yo voy a filmar esto porque después me dicen que es mentira. Ustedes escuchan ese ruido, ¿no? Porque... Pará, no puede ser. Quiero que vean la hora que es de la mañana. Hace un frío afuera. Quiero que vean. Ahí, de acá viene el ruido, desde hoy lo estoy escuchando. Hace un frío, bro. Miren, acá está el asador, el pasillo. ¡Ey! ¿Qué carajo, boludo? Quiero que vean. El frío que hace. Porque posta no se dejan de escuchar esos ruidos desde mi pieza, boludo. Nah.
As he records, something briefly appears near the fence line, peeking before quickly pulling back as if it has been noticed. The movement is fast, but clear enough to suggest something moving in the dark. What makes this moment harder to dismiss is the lack of any follow-up sound, because if that had been a person running away, there should have been footsteps, some indication of movement across the ground, but there is nothing. But that isn't the only detail that stands out. At another point in the footage, the swing nearby can be seen moving. If it were the wind, you would expect the surrounding plants to move with the same intensity or rhythm, yet they remain relatively still, while the swing continues moving like someone had been sitting there moments before getting up. So if something was at the fence and something was moving the swing, could those two moments be connected? You decide. This next video was captured by a CCTV camera inside a beauty center, but what makes this situation unusual starts long before the footage itself. The owners didn't install cameras for security in the usual sense because nothing was being stolen. Instead, every morning when they opened the shop, they kept finding things out of place, products rearranged, tools moved, and at times items scattered in ways that didn't match how the place had been left the night before. At first, it seemed like something that could be explained, maybe someone forgetting how things were arranged, or a simple oversight, but the consistency of it happening made them question whether something else was going on. Eventually, they decided to install cameras, not to catch a thief, but to understand what was changing their space overnight. And this is what they caught. Watch. In the footage, a door that had been newly fixed and firmly secured begins slamming repeatedly. Then there is the detail that unsettles many people the most, because later in the footage, a dark, fog-like presence can be seen forming within view. Now, before jumping to any conclusions, there is one important detail about the location itself. This beauty shop sits directly in front of a funeral home, and while that may not mean anything on its own, some people believe that places connected to death, grief, and constant emotional energy can sometimes influence nearby environments, especially if there is something lingering or unsettled. The idea that whatever passes through or remains in one place could extend beyond its boundaries is something often brought up in cases like this. And when a place shows signs of movement, disturbance, and something that visually appears and lingers, it creates a situation that is difficult to reduce to coincidence alone, because if nothing is being stolen, and everything is simply being moved, then the question becomes harder to ignore. What is still coming into that shop after closing time? And why does it keep rearranging everything like it belongs there? In this next clip, a woman captures something unusual happening right inside her kitchen, and according to her, if not for the camera, her partner would never have believed that something else might be sharing their space with them. For a while, she had been noticing strange disturbances around the house, including the sound of plates breaking, objects scattering, and items ending up in places no one remembers putting them. At first, it was easy to assume it was the children, or simple accidents that happen in a busy home. But over time, the frequency of these activities made that explanation harder to hold on to. So they installed cameras. Have a look. In the footage, a cup suddenly falls, not tipping slowly or sliding off the edge, but dropping in a way that immediately feels off, as though it had been pushed rather than lost its balance. What makes this moment more unsettling is something else that was revealed. Watch. In this clip, there is a movement that is clear enough to raise questions, especially when paired with the earlier moment of the cup falling. After she shared the video, not everyone was convinced. Some people argued that the movement and the falling cup were unrelated, suggesting that the cup may have simply slipped due to balance or surface conditions, and that what was seen later could be coincidental or misinterpreted. But she responded with another clip. Watch.
Aquí fue donde se cayó el vaso. Roberto está intentando recrear la situación porque dice que es mentira, que había agua y que el vaso se resbaló. Pero no, nomás no lo
logré.
Sí, pero ¿con qué velocidad lo estás aventando? En el video no es la misma velocidad.
Claro, en el video.
Y está alto, o sea. Y cae hasta.
In this final moment, the positioning of the cup and the surface it was on makes it difficult to explain how it could have slipped on its own. So if the cup didn't slip, then something made it fall. And if something made it fall, then it means they are not the only ones in that house. For now, this one remains unsolved. The following video dates back to 2024 and was captured by a family's security camera on a quiet Sunday night at around 9 p.m., a time when nothing unusual would normally be expected, especially inside a home where everyone is settled in for the evening. That sense of normalcy, however, is interrupted when the woman's son goes into the kitchen to make himself a cup of coffee, a simple routine that quickly turns into something far more unsettling. Not long after, he rushes back to her room, visibly shaken, his face pale and his voice unsteady, insisting that he heard someone call his name, not faintly or from a distance, but clearly enough to make him respond, even though no one in the house had called out to him. Within seconds, the CCTV system sends a notification, motion detected in the living room, despite the fact that no one is supposed to be there. Naturally, they check the footage, expecting to find something ordinary, something explainable, but instead, they see this. Watch. The camera itself begins to move, as though it is tracking something. Then, without warning, the scooter seat snaps shut with force. Some viewers pointed out that in the initial footage, while the sound is clear, the movement itself is difficult to fully see, raising questions about whether it could be a technical issue or a trick of perspective. But then, they shared another angle. Watch. This time, the movement becomes harder to dismiss, reinforcing the idea that something is interacting with the environment. After this incident, the family decides to bless the house, taking steps to cleanse the space and restore a sense of safety. And for a while, it seems to work, as the disturbances stop and life returns to normal, or at least something close to it. But nearly 2 years later, on March 17th, 2026, at around 2 a.m. when everyone in the house is asleep, something happens again. Watch. The bike was stationary and untouched, so how did this happen? The family is beginning to think that whatever may have been present before didn't fully leave, but instead remained dormant, quiet for a long period before making itself known again. Now the family is left questioning whether what they experienced years ago has returned, or whether there is another explanation that is yet to be uncovered. Because when something disappears and then reappears after such a long silence, it creates the unsettling possibility that it was never truly gone, only waiting for the right moment to be noticed again. But you be the judge. In this next clip, a woman is home alone, going about something as routine as doing the dishes when she suddenly begins to hear strange knocking sounds coming from another part of the house. But when she looks around, everything appears normal. No movement and no sign of anyone being there. Still unsettled, she decides to take an extra step, setting up a camera in the living room before heading back to the kitchen, almost as if she anticipates that whatever made the noise might happen again, but this time she wants proof. A few minutes later, the camera captures this. Watch.
Okay, I'm so crazy, right? Here you go. Baby is terrified. Hold on. I know. You're okay. You're okay. I know. God, I'm like shaking.
For a long time, these events remained unexplained, disconnected pieces of a pattern she couldn't fully understand until she eventually traced it back to something she had almost forgotten about. A necklace she purchased back in 2011 from an estate sale, something she initially saw as just a unique vintage piece. The necklace carried unfamiliar symbols, details she didn't think much of at the time, but later came to learn were associated with a figure known for occult rituals and darker spiritual practices, giving the object a context she hadn't considered when she first brought it into her home. Some viewers have pointed out that in many beliefs, objects linked to rituals or symbolic practices are not always the source, but sometimes just a medium. Something that allows access rather than containing it, which raises a more unsettling possibility that removing the object may not necessarily remove whatever became attached through it. Now, in this next video, a family documents a series of escalating events inside their home, compiling multiple incidents over time to show just how far things have progressed. And what stands out immediately is not just the activity itself, but the pattern, because each new experience appears more intense than the last, as though whatever is behind it is becoming more comfortable, more direct, and far less subtle in how it makes its presence known. Have a look. At different points, the activity takes on different forms. Sometimes it's objects being thrown with force, like a knife suddenly moving in a way that clearly isn't accidental. Other times, it's voices echoing through the house when no one is speaking, or lights behaving unpredictably, flickering or reacting without any clear electrical cause. Viewers believe this may not be a simple haunting, but something more aggressive, like a demon. And this raises a deeper question. How do demons find their way into homes? Some believe it can begin with seemingly small actions, bringing in objects with unknown histories, engaging with rituals or practices without full understanding, or even repeated acknowledgement of unexplained activity, which in certain beliefs is thought to strengthen whatever is there. Others suggest that prolonged emotional stress or conflict within a space can create an environment that attracts or amplifies negative presence, turning the home itself into a place where that energy can settle and grow. So, whether you see this as something explainable or something far more serious, one thing becomes clear. Being mindful of what you bring into your space, what you engage with, and what you choose to ignore may matter more than it seems. Because once something crosses that threshold, getting it to leave may not be nearly as simple as keeping it out in the first place. So, beware. A family who had just moved into a new apartment begins to notice small things that don't quite add up. The kind of details that are easy to brush off at first, but become harder to ignore the more often they happen. It starts with subtle disturbances, objects not being where they were left, faint sounds late at night that seem to come from empty rooms, and moments where the air feels strangely heavy, as though the space hasn't quite settled into being lived in yet. Over time, these incidents begin to form a pattern, one that the family can no longer dismiss as coincidence, especially after experiencing multiple events that feel increasingly difficult to explain. By the time this recording is made, they refer to it as the third major incident they've captured, almost as if they've reached a point where they expect something to happen rather than hope it won't. Watch.
See, it's still happening. Honestly, this is all the time. Whoa, Jesus. The cat scared the shit out of me. Rory, you were really scaring the shit out of me. I know Rory didn't do that. What the f*** is going on? What the f*** happened, Rory?
Your first thought is airflow from a vent, but how do you explain the door? What adds to the tension is the fact that he was completely alone at the time, removing any immediate explanation tied to another person's presence. When activities begin shortly after moving into a new space, it may not be something newly introduced, but something that was already there, something tied to the environment rather than the people who now occupy it. And when each new incident builds on the last, becoming more noticeable, more physical, and harder to dismiss, it creates a growing sense that whatever is causing it is not random. But until more updates are shared, what exactly is behind these disturbances remains unclear. The following video is about a man named Jorge, who for some time has been dealing with recurring shadow figures and a series of deeply unsettling events that, at first, seemed limited to his surroundings. Objects shifting slightly out of place, brief shapes appearing at the edge of his vision, and an ongoing feeling that he was not alone, even when there was no one else physically present. there was also a moment that raised even more concern, when he began acting in a way he could not later recall, behavior that others described as completely unlike him, leaving him dependent on his own security footage to understand what had taken place, as if there were periods of time where he was present, but not fully in control. And now, this is what he's dealing with. Watch.
Guys, I was getting ready to go to sleep and I just heard a door slam. Shut loud. I just heard a door slam. Oh, shit! Oh no. Oh, somebody's there. Wait. In the name of the Son and the Holy Spirit, I ask every demon, I command every demon to leave the house right now. I command in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, leave the house now. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, I ask you to leave this house now. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. You are not welcome in this home. You are not welcome in this home. This is the house of... There's a door slamming and people screaming. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit.
At first, the door slammed, then he felt something move past him. Some interpretations suggest that when activity progresses from external disturbances to direct influence on a person's physical state and awareness, it may indicate a deeper level of attachment, something that is no longer confined to the environment alone. Others believe that the presence of shadow-like movement, especially when it appears to move quickly and deliberately, can be associated with entities that do not fully manifest, but still retain the ability to interact with both space and perception. For now, what Jorge is experiencing continues without a clear explanation or resolution, and until more information comes to light, this case remains one of those situations where the pieces are visible, the pattern is forming, but the full picture is still just out of reach. Now this next video was captured by Jennifer, who owns a beautiful historic home dating all the way back to 1907, a place filled with carefully preserved antique pieces, some of which date even earlier to around 1903, giving the house a sense of history that feels both rich and, at times, a little too present. At first glance, everything about the home appears warm and inviting, the kind of place that reflects elegance and character rather than anything unsettling. However, after speaking with a local historian, Jennifer learned something that added a different layer to that history, that when the house was first built, there were no nearby hospitals, and as a result, it is believed that at least 4 people passed away inside the home itself, a detail that, while not unusual for the time period, begins to take on a different meaning when paired with what she starts experiencing. On this particular day, while cleaning the second floor, she begins to hear something. Listen closely.
Hearing some noises upstairs. Emily went home. I'm cleaning. I usually clean on Saturdays. I feel like when I clean, hear that. Then I hear noises upstairs. speaking also, like a voice. But the noises in the upstairs are coming from that way. Hear that? Wow. Good, I really hope they're cleaning because I could use some help. It's crazy. It's like I hear like a broom being dragged by, or just housekeeper shuffling or something. Obviously the creek. Oh, I just heard some music again.
Before jumping to conclusions, there's a piece of the home's past that many believe could be connected to what's happening. As far back as the 1930s, the family who lived there had a housekeeper named Mildred, and according to stories passed down by previous residents, the house tends to become noticeably more active during the month she passed away, with sounds that resemble someone moving through the rooms, almost as if routine has continued long after it should have ended. To this day, the house remains a place filled with both history and unanswered questions, and whatever presence may still linger within its walls remains a mystery. The following video is about Nate, who works at a cemetery, and for weeks now, he's believed something followed him home. Strange sounds in his house at night, footsteps on the basement stairs, objects being thrown in the dark. His working theory is that whatever attached itself to him did so on the grounds of this cemetery, and so on his second day back, he arrived hoping, genuinely hoping, that it had finally stayed behind. He walks through the maintenance garage, a cluttered space filled with zero-turn mowers, brooms, and landscaping equipment, narrating quietly to himself, saying he hadn't heard any walking around his house the night before, no knives or scissors being thrown, and that maybe, just maybe, it had finally let go of him. Watch.
Alright, so this is my second day up here at the cemetery. Now it is still early on, but I will say, after opening up the cemetery yesterday, when I got home last night, I did not notice any activity. I know it's only been a night, but I didn't hear any walking around my house last night. I didn't hear any walking on the basement stairs. Most importantly, no knives or scissors being thrown. So I am hoping and staying hopeful that whatever was attached when I closed the cemetery last year would have, oh shit. Oh shit. Okay. Hoping that whatever attached itself to me followed me back here and found peace and will stay here. I told it has no permission to follow me home ever again. Holy shit. This. Okay. This. This was over here. This was up here.
A bow saw crashes off its rack and lands in the middle of the concrete floor, loud enough to make him swear out loud, loud enough to stop him mid-sentence. He picks it up and hangs it back on the wooden rack where it had been stored, pointing to the exact spot it came from. His breathing throughout is audibly shaky. For those familiar with poltergeist cases, displaced objects are one of the most commonly documented forms of activity. Not subtle enough to explain away, but not violent enough to be immediately threatening, more like a signal, something acknowledging it's still there. What's harder to dismiss is the timing. He had just finished saying he hoped it had found peace and stayed behind. Then the saw hit the floor. The following day, he returns to the same garage at dusk, this time because something caught his eye on the way in. Watch.
Alright, so I'm just getting here, at the cemetery, and as I was pulling in, parked over there, as I was pulling in, I saw this light flicker, and it looked like somebody was walking in front of the window, so I wanted to start recording as soon as I that's the window there. What the f is that? Holy shit, what the f is that? I could have swore I just heard something. Okay, so it was that window right there. And I mean, you can see there's a cement mixer in front of that. Tools. So, yeah, it's not like you can just get back there and, holy shit. I could have swore I heard somebody call my name or something as soon as I walked in. Holy fuck. Let's open this up. Yes, I'm here. Hello?
The moment he steps into the dark interior and identifies the window where he'd seen a light flicker, a clear, disembodied male whisper responds, something that sounds unmistakably like yeah, yeah, followed almost immediately by a second, lower, guttural sound. He reacts with audible panic. Later in the same clip, a loud shuffling erupts from off-camera, then a sharp bang as if something struck the metal door, and finally a distinct disembodied voice asks what sounds like a direct question, to which he responds out loud, "Yes, I'm here." What investigators would classify as EVP, electronic voice phenomena, typically refers to voices captured on recording that weren't audible to the person present at the time. What makes this harder to dismiss is that he heard it in real time and responded to it. Two separate voices, two separate moments, both apparently aware of him. And then there's the third visit. He arrives again at dawn, and before he can even finish explaining to the camera that nobody is inside the locked garage. This happens. Watch.
Alright guys, so I've just pulled in to the cemetery again, and second day in a row I saw what looked like just a head peeking through that window. Yesterday I saw the same thing, but I caught the lights flickering. So I want to show everybody there's nobody in here. I'm unlocking it. It was that window right there. But I'm going to shut the door, turn the light on. Nobody here. As always, it was that window right there. But as you can see, there's cement mixer over there, boards over there. Like it's not. Jesus. Okay. Ooh, that made me jump. Okay, so sledgehammer. Awesome. Awesome. Okay. Good morning to you too. Glad you found your way back here. And like I told you, you're not allowed to follow me to my home. This is your home, or go wherever, just not with me. So
A sledgehammer appears on the floor beside the white refrigerator, a spot he had just filmed as empty. And then, while he's directly addressing the entity and telling it that it's not allowed to follow him home, a second sequence of crashes erupts, a metallic bang, then a violent, prolonged crashing and dragging sound from across the workshop, loud enough to overpower his voice entirely. He ends the clip with a heavy sigh and a single muttered word. 3 separate visits, 3 separate incidents. A saw, a whisper, a sledgehammer, and then something that sounded like it was dragging equipment across the floor. Whether this is a residual presence tied to the cemetery grounds or something far more aware, the pattern across these clips suggests it isn't passive. It responds. It reacts to what he says, and so far, telling it to stay behind doesn't seem to be working. The following set of clips comes from a stretch of time that feels less like a string of isolated incidents and more like something building toward a point. The same creeping wrongness showing up across different homes, different nights, and different people, all of them left with the same uneasy question. The first clip was recorded by a man named Kyle, who was already having what he described as a wild morning, and you can hear it in his voice from the very first second. Watch.
It's coming from the garage. Okay. Is anybody up there? Honey, I gotta move the car. And what is going on outside?
If you look closely, something moved in the attic, and some people who've watched this think the simultaneous opening of the ladders points to something deliberate. Not a mechanical failure, not a fluke, but something testing access points, finding its way between floors. Skeptics, of course, say both latches could have been faulty, that old attic hardware loosens over time, and both gave way on the same morning by coincidence. That explanation is harder to hold onto when you hear how rattled he sounds. That isn't someone who thinks he forgot to close something. The next clip shifts from the physical to the personal, and it's one of the more unsettling accounts in this whole set. Kyle films from his bed at night, looking across a dimly lit room toward his closet, recounting what happened the night before. Watch.
Oh, y'all old lady ghosts need to take your ass on somewhere. Quit scaring the shit out of people in the middle of the night. Woke up last night and there was an old lady standing right there at the corner of the bed staring at me. She was doing that old woman, like, titter, you know, like, you know, like that. Scared the shit out of me. Yeah, she laughed and said, "Won't be long. Won't be long." That's what she said. Sounded like a really country old lady. Won't be long. Won't be long what? I know it wasn't a dream either because my fiance asked me, "What are you staring at?" And I lied and said nothing because I didn't want to tell her there's some creepy ass lady standing at the end of the bed. And then when I woke up this morning, I asked her, "Hey, did you ask me that last night?" And she was like, "Yeah." Giggling ass old lady. Gray hair, white nightgown, just, you know, liver spots on her arms, just creepy as shit. Nothing against old ladies either. Old ladies in general aren't creepy. Old ladies are only creepy when they're not supposed to be in your house and you open your freaking eyes and they're standing right there.
In paranormal traditions across multiple cultures, apparitions that deliver vague warnings, especially phrases tied to time, endings, or finality, are sometimes interpreted as harbingers, figures that appear specifically to deliver a message rather than to haunt a location. The specific phrasing, "won't be long," carries a weight that's hard to shake because it doesn't threaten. It just informs, and that alone is terrifying. The third clip takes things outside, onto a porch at night, where a man is watching something that clearly has him rattled. Listen closely.
I knew I wasn't crazy. What the This is insane. There it goes again. It's rocking by itself. There's no wind. I don't know if you can see. There's no wind. It just keeps doing it. There's no way. There's no way. What the fuck, yo? This is crazy.
A white rocking chair on the porch moves back and forth on its own in the dark. Steady, rhythmic, the way it would move if someone were sitting in it and gently rocking. He pans the camera to show there's no wind disturbing anything else, and then, when he turns on a bright light, both chairs on the porch go completely still. His reaction when the light comes on is what stays with you. There's no way. Skeptics will point out that a rocking chair in low light is one of the easier effects to fake with invisible fishing line, and the chair stopping the moment the light turns on could mean someone off camera let go of the string. But for others, the immediate cessation fits a different theory, that whatever presence was there reacted to the light, retreating the moment it was exposed. Rocking chairs carry a heavy weight in Southern folklore specifically, often associated with the elderly and the recently deceased, and there's something about this clip, the isolation, the night sounds, the rhythm of that motion, that makes the skeptical explanation feel just slightly less satisfying than it should. It didn't stop there. The fourth and final clip comes from a home security camera. A Wise camera, black and white night vision, timestamp reading 11:14 p.m. on March 15th of 2024. No one is visible in the house. Watch. One of the high-back chairs at the kitchen island slowly and smoothly slides backward across the floor by itself, moving steadily away from the island until it stops several feet out, and in the corner of the frame, a small cat freezes mid-groom and turns to look directly at it. The cat's reaction is what a lot of viewers latched onto. Animals are often said to perceive things before humans do, and watching it stop and track the movement of that chair as though something invisible were sitting down gives the footage a layer that's difficult to rationalize away. Taken alone, any one of these clips has an explanation you could reach for. Together, they leave you with a pattern that's harder to dismiss. Things opening on their own, voices warning of something coming, objects moving in the dark while animals watch what you can't see. What exactly is building here? This next clip comes from a home where the security camera footage has been raising serious questions. A static night vision shot of what appears to be a room, completely empty, with a white wooden rocking chair positioned in front of a bed. No wind, no open windows, no one in the room. Watch. From the very first second, the rocking chair begins to move on its own, starting with a small, almost gentle sway before building into a full, forceful rock that sustains itself for the entire duration of the clip. And that alone is terrifying. What makes it harder to dismiss is how consistent and rhythmic the motion is. Not a single jolt or wobble that might suggest a draft or vibration, but a smooth, deliberate rocking, as if someone is sitting in it. Some viewers have tried to explain it through the idea of residual energy, suggesting that certain spaces can retain fragments of past activity that replay under the right conditions. But that explanation begins to weaken when you consider what else was captured around the same time. Because near the window, something else appears. A strange figure, faint but clearly moving, positioned just outside as if it is trying to look in, lingering long enough to suggest it is not simply passing by, but observing, watching the inside of the house with a kind of stillness that feels intentional. And that single detail shifts the situation from something passive to something aware. And then, on another night, the activity escalates beyond movement and observation into something far more direct. Something that does not just exist within the space, but attempts to interact with the people living in it. Watch.
Tranquila, mamá, tranquila. Ustedes tranquilos, ¿eh? Ustedes tranquilos. Ya tranquilo, hijo, tranquilo. No mames, cabrón. Ya, hija, ya. Híjole.
No pasa nada.
Que no me abren.
Tranquila, corazoncito.
Me pasaba al cuarto. Qué sorprendente, cabrón. Me pasaba al cuarto. A la máquina. ¿Qué hacemos? No se ve nada en la cámara. Revisa la cámara, güey. Amor, ábreme.
¡A la madre! No manches. ¿Qué pedo?
Sí, güey. Voy a bajar a ver, güey. Voy a bajar a ver. Tranquilo, tranquilo, sí.
Para, con cuidado.
No mames, güey. No mames, cabrón. No mames. ¿Quién madre anda ahí? Uf. ¿Quién anda ahí? Ya te vi en la cámara. Mames, aquí está cerrado, señores. Aquí está cerrado, creo. Miren. Miren. La llave está acá. Y aquí también está cerrado. Oigan. No mames, está todo cerrado. ¿Es eso qué? ¿Quién de aquí? Tiene que salir.
Someone is at the door, calling out to them, using a voice that sounds familiar enough to make them pause, to listen, to question whether it could actually be someone they know. And that is where the entire situation becomes far more unsettling. This pattern aligns closely with what many describe as mimic behavior, where an entity does not immediately reveal itself, but instead listens, studies, and then reproduces voices it has heard, using that familiarity to draw attention, to create confusion, and in some cases, to lure someone into responding. Until more details are shared, this remains unsolved. The following video was recorded by a man named Isaac, who recently moved into a house that has been passed down through several generations of his family. On the surface, it seems like a typical old home. Quiet, somewhat isolated, and filled with the kind of history that comes with buildings that have stood for decades. But once you learn what happened there long before Isaac arrived, the story begins to feel far more unsettling. The original owner of the house was a war veteran. After returning from combat, he reportedly struggled heavily with PTSD, and family members say there were nights when he would suddenly leave the house and hide outside, convinced he was hearing noises coming from a small shed in the backyard. He insisted something was in there, something moving and sometimes watching. Over time, his fear of that shed grew so intense that he eventually refused to go anywhere near it. Even during the daytime, he would avoid walking past it. Years later, Isaac says that same shed is the one place on the property that never feels right. From his bedroom window, he claims he has occasionally seen figures moving inside it. Other nights, he hears loud banging coming from the shed door, like something inside is trying to force its way out. One morning, while recording a video to answer questions from viewers about the house, something strange happened. Watch this.
I've been seeing all the comments, I've been seeing all the questions, and I wanted to make a video to answer those questions for you guys now. It's about 5:30, 5:45 in the morning. I can't sleep. So I figured, why not, right? So on to the first question. What happened to the video? Y'all hear that, right? Like that. Y'all see that?
If you look closely at the window behind him, a white figure briefly appears, then suddenly moves out of sight. And not long after that, something else happens. The door slowly opens on its own, even though no one else is there. Moments like that made viewers even more curious about the shed itself, so many began asking Isaac to go inside and check it out. Watch this.
Okay, so you guys have been asking me to take you in the shed and leave the phone in there. And I know it's been a little while since I put out a video regarding the shed, but a lot has been happening and I just truly needed some time. So I took it. But just to show you, it is locked, okay? And I'm going to immediately, no cuts, as per usual. Okay, so we are walking into, God, these dolls are creepy. We're gonna walk in, well, not walk in, but we're in here now. And yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and set this up. You guys got a good view, right? Windows, everything. All right. I guess I'll catch y'all. I'm out.
While Isaac is filming, a noise suddenly comes from one of the plastic containers, a sound that almost resembles a doll shifting or trying to move inside the box. Isaac later confirmed that when he checked afterward, there was a doll that wasn't inside its box. And if you're wondering, where did all those dolls come from? It turns out the granddaughter who now owns the property has a deep love for collecting dolls. Over the years, she filled the shed with them, hoping to eventually pass the collection down to her children. But after Isaac posted that video, viewers wanted more proof of what might be happening inside the shed. So they asked him to record another clip, this time from a different angle. Watch this.
And just so you know, because somebody actually said in the video yesterday, of course it happens from behind the camera. That's what's behind the camera, okay? Solid wall. That's what's behind the camera, okay? Okay. I'm out. That wasn't supposed to happen. Maybe I should close the door softer next time. Let's go ahead and try that again. Okay? I'm gonna close it softly this time. Lord have mercy.
Isaac had already left the shed, yet something was moving inside. Some viewers believe the shed could be tied to the trauma of the veteran who once lived there, a place where fear and distress lingered long after he passed away. Others think the dolls themselves may be acting like vessels, objects capable of holding or attracting energy. Despite how uneasy it made him feel, Isaac kept receiving messages asking him to go back to the shed again, with many people claiming the activity probably only happened during the daytime. But that assumption turned out to be wrong. Watch this. This time, whatever might be inside becomes far more active. Objects begin shifting around the room and things scatter across the floor. Some viewers claim they can hear faint breathing sounds in the background, while others believe they hear a voice quietly saying, "Help," or possibly "Let me out," while another sound resembles someone saying, "Get out." Ever since Halloween, Isaac says every single night he hears sounds coming from the shed, noises that suggest something inside is moving things around. So each morning he wakes up to see this. Watch this.
This is what I come into every single day. Y'all ask me why the shed. Look at this, dolls knocked over, turned around. Baseboards moved. Not baseboards, drywall moved, bed knocked over, powder all over the floor. This is what I come into every single day. You guys ask me why is the shed cleaned every single time I walk in here? It's because every single day I wake up, I have to come in and clean it because it's a mess. This is a regular occurrence. So you guys are gonna watch my morning routine. Somebody said lay it like this so you get a wider angle. I have a clip on the back, so there's no way. I'm trying to figure out the best way to do this. I don't. So let's maybe from here. Oh. Okay, it's about as open as a shot as I can get because I have to. Somebody said they don't have the energy to do this. Man, it's freezing out here. It's like 20-something degrees here in South Carolina, and I'm out here having to yet once again pick all this shit up. My God, I'm freezing. Even the foam mattress is solid. Good God almighty. Back in the days when I used to wrestle, I used to pray for...
While he's sweeping and talking about the temperature in the area, a voice can be heard quietly saying, "Who's there?" Another detail also caught viewers' attention. Many people said that simply looking at that object gave them a strange, uncomfortable feeling. Several viewers even asked Isaac to investigate where it came from and why it was inside the shed in the first place. For now though, Isaac hasn't found any clear explanation, so until more details come out, that shed in the backyard remains a mystery. This next video was recorded by Nate, a man many viewers already recognize because of the strange activity that has been happening inside his home for quite some time now. Recently, people began digging deeper into his past and discovered that he used to work in a cemetery. And ever since that detail came out, some viewers have started linking the disturbances in his house to something he may have unknowingly brought back with him from that job. Whether that connection is real or not is impossible to prove, but the things happening inside his home have definitely kept people talking. One morning, Nate was simply going about his routine when he suddenly heard knocking coming from his back door. At first it sounded normal, like someone politely tapping to get his attention. Naturally, he walked over to check who might be outside, but when he got there, this happened.
So I just thought I heard somebody knocking on my back door, but I looked out there and I saw nothing, so seems like the dog heard it too. Hello? It sounds like it's coming from the back door. It's locked. There's nobody there. What the hell? I don't understand this. What the hell was that? Hello? I don't understand.
The knocking can clearly be heard, yet when Nate enters the kitchen, there's no one standing there. And if you listen carefully in the background of the clip, something else can be heard. A faint whisper that many viewers believe sounds like a woman's voice. This isn't the first time people have pointed out strange voices in Nate's recordings either. In several of his previous videos, viewers claimed to hear quiet murmurs or soft responses when Nate called out into empty rooms. Because of this, some people have started advising him to stop reacting to the activity altogether, saying that acknowledging it might only encourage whatever is causing it. But if we're being honest, that's a lot easier said than done. Imagine hearing someone knock on your door and simply ignoring it, especially when you're already dealing with things like waking up with unexplained scratches on your body, objects suddenly flying across the room, and sharp items being thrown around your home when no one else is there. At that point, curiosity and fear would probably make anyone want to check what's going on. Some viewers believe the whispers might be a form of electronic voice phenomenon, brief sounds that sometimes appear in recordings even when no one is speaking nearby. But considering everything Nate claims has been happening around him, the moment in this clip feels difficult to ignore. Whether this is connected to Nate's past work, something attached to the house itself, or something else entirely. For now, the situation remains unresolved. The following footage dates back to 2022 and was captured by a CCTV camera late at night, when the area was supposed to be completely quiet. Take a look. If you focus on the right side of the screen near the gate, you'll notice something unusual. A dark shape suddenly moves and then it disappears just as fast as it appeared. At first glance, many people suggested the most logical explanation: a camera glitch. Security cameras sometimes struggle in low light, especially when there's sudden movement, insects flying close to the lens, or changes in lighting that cause strange shadows to form. And in many cases, those explanations make perfect sense. But then, there are those who take the mystery a little further. Across many ancient cultures, there are stories suggesting that humans may not be the only beings that walk this world. Folklore from different parts of the world often speaks about shadowy figures, entities that appear briefly, moving along the edges of visibility, rarely staying long enough to be clearly seen. Some legends describe them as spirits passing between places. Others believe they could be remnants of something older, something that exists alongside us but rarely crosses fully into our world. Of course, there's no way to confirm anything like that from a single clip, but when a shape appears out of nowhere, moves like something alive, and then vanishes without a trace, it's hard not to wonder what exactly passed by. So was that a glitch, someone's shadow, or something else entirely? I'll leave that one for you to decide. Now in this next video, a man who has openly shared that he lives with severe schizophrenia decided to do something unusual. Because he often experiences things that others can't see, he started recording parts of his home at night, hoping the camera might help him figure out whether what he was seeing were hallucinations or something else entirely. One night, something strange happened and he caught it on camera. Seeing this, the man initially assumes it's just another hallucination, something his mind is creating. In the past, he developed a small trick to test whether something was real or not. Whenever he saw something unusual, he would open and close the drapes or change the lighting in the room, which usually helped make the vision disappear. So he tries the same thing again. He opens and closes the curtains, expecting the movement to stop. But this time, it doesn't. To this day, no one has been able to say with certainty what caused the movement that night. The following video dates back to 2016, when a lady was 9 years old, spending time at home with her cousin, doing what most kids do, playing around, recording random moments, and not thinking too much about what might be happening in the background. Years later, after strange things in the house began to resurface, unexplained sounds, subtle movements, and that persistent feeling that something wasn't quite right, she decided to go back and review old footage, hoping they might have missed something back then. And that's when she found this. Watch closely.
Dude, what the heck, man? Who are you? Hello? What was that? Did you guys see that? Vines. Come on. Come here. Hello from the other side. Walking really funny. At least I got that on camera. Bye.
First, an unusual light appears. It's brief, easy to miss, but clearly there. And then, something else. A figure. When she reviewed the clip again as an adult, she said the shape looked like a baby figure. Small, low to the ground, and oddly formed. But once the video was shared, people had very different interpretations. Some were convinced it didn't look like a child at all. They believed it looked like a demonic figure. Others made a different comparison entirely, saying it resembled Pennywise. For context, Pennywise is a fictional entity from It by Stephen King, often portrayed as a shape-shifting being that commonly appears as a clown to lure children, but is actually something far more sinister beneath the surface. It's known for taking forms that feel familiar, yet deeply unsettling. And that comparison only made the clip more disturbing for viewers, because if something in that video really did resemble a child, then it becomes harder to explain. In this next video, a bus driver who had been working late shifts for years shares something that completely changed the way he viewed those quiet, empty routes at night, especially because he was used to long hours, isolated roads, and the kind of silence that most people would already find unsettling, yet had never experienced anything he couldn't logically explain until this particular night. After completing his final stop, he did what he always does, checking through his rearview mirror carefully to make sure every passenger had gotten off, scanning each row from front to back until he was certain the bus was completely empty. And once he confirmed there was no one left, he began the drive back to the station, already thinking about heading home to his family after a long day. For a while, everything felt normal. The road quiet, the bus steady, nothing out of place. And then, this happened. Watch. While he is driving, with absolutely no passengers on board, a voice suddenly echoes from inside the bus, loud enough to be clearly heard, saying, "I'm getting off here." But when he checks again, there is no one there. Some believe this could be a case where a past moment somehow imprints itself onto a place and replays under certain conditions, especially in environments like buses that carry countless people and experiences over time. But until more clips are shared, this one remains unsolved. Now, this next video was recorded by David, a name some of you might already recognize, especially if you've been following the channel for a while. For those who don't know, David once brought home a doll, something that seemed harmless at first, maybe even interesting because of its age and appearance, but not long after, he realized it was the biggest mistake of his life. His nights became restless, filled with strange figures appearing in his room, fleeting shapes that never stayed long enough to fully understand, and a voice that would wail in the dark, sometimes calling out different names, none of which he recognized. It got so intense that he eventually locked the doll inside a cage, placing a Bible and rosary on top of it, hoping it would contain whatever was attached to it. But even that didn't stop it. One night, after falling asleep, he had a nightmare so vivid it forced him awake. And when he opened his eyes, he saw this. Watch.
Tenía una pesadilla y despierto. ¿Por qué me estás jodiendo a cada rato? ¿Qué quieres? No entiendo qué es lo que... Ese, el quemado. Ese. Y no sé si escucharon lo que... No entendí muy bien. Pero... algo se escuchó. ¡Ah! Ahora sí sentí mucha adrenalina. Se desenfoca. No sé qué gana. Estoy escuchando música aquí de relajamiento. O sea, estaba durmiendo. Ya son las, ¿qué? 4:51 de la mañana. No entiendo. No entiendo. En serio, ya no sé qué hacer. Alexa, luz del cuarto blanco frío. Joder.
According to David, this isn't something he's seen once. He claims that same face appears to him almost every night, but the moment he switches on the light, it's gone. No movement toward the door, no sound of footsteps, and no space under the bed large enough for anything to hide. Now, did the doll bring something into his life? Or did it simply reveal something that was already waiting? You decide. The following video was recorded by a CCTV camera inside a man's home, capturing something that only came to his attention after he had already left the house for the evening. He had stepped out briefly with his nephew, who was visiting for the holidays, and everything seemed completely normal at the time. The house locked, quiet, and empty, just the way he left it. But on their way back, he received a notification from his security system, the kind that usually signals movement or unexpected activity inside the house. At first, he assumed it was nothing serious, maybe a minor glitch or something small triggering the sensor, but when he opened the footage to check, he saw this.
D. Front. Door. Center. Center is open. Disarm now. Disarm now.
After he shared the video, a lot of people were quick to dismiss it, suggesting that someone must have been inside the house, that the whole thing was staged, or that it was simply a person checking the room before entering. But that explanation raises its own questions, because if it were a person, why do the eyes reflect like that? I'll let you be the judge on this. In this next clip, a man shares an experience that began in the most ordinary way, Something as simple as going downstairs in the middle of the night to get a glass of water, a routine that should have taken only a few minutes, quiet, uneventful, and easily forgotten by morning. But as he made his way through the house, he started hearing something unusual. A voice, faint at first, almost blending into the silence, but clear enough that he knew it wasn't just his imagination. It didn't sound like a television or a phone left playing somewhere, and it definitely didn't sound like something coming from outside. It sounded inside the house. Curious, but uneasy, he decided to trace where it was coming from, slowly moving toward the direction of the sound, trying to make sense of it. And then he saw a strange figure. Startled, he immediately ran back upstairs, his first instinct not just to get away, but to record it, especially because he had already brought in someone to bless the house before moving in, sensing from the beginning that something about the place didn't feel right. Watch closely.
Entonces pues sí me despertaron y me dio sed. Entonces bajé por un vaso de agua y me regresé corriendo. Quiero que vean esto. A ver si todavía está ahí. Es que siempre que les quiero mostrar algo, parece que desaparece para hacerme quedar mal. No, sí, sigue ahí. No sé si se esté viendo. Hay algo ahí parado. Y está altísimo. No sé qué es. Perdón con la luz, es que mi perro se está atravesando. Y si lo suelto, va y le ladra y me da miedo que vaya a pasar algo. Ay Dios, ahí se ve mejor, pero se ve más feo. Ya, deja de moverte. Perdónenme. ¿Hola? ¿Hola?
Some believe it could be tied to the house itself, something that was already there long before he moved in, and that the blessing may not have fully removed whatever presence remains. There's also the idea that shadows like this are not just random appearances, but deliberate observations, something watching, learning the layout, understanding the person living there. Until more updates are shared, this one remains unsolved. Now, this next clip was recorded by a family's security system, something they originally installed both inside and outside the house for a very practical reason. They foster dogs, and with multiple animals moving in and out over time, they needed a reliable way to monitor activity, keep track of movement, and make sure everything stayed under control, even when they weren't actively watching. For a long time, the cameras only ever captured what they expected. Dogs wandering around, the usual sounds of a busy home, nothing out of the ordinary. But over the past month, something else started appearing, something that doesn't move like a dog and doesn't resemble any adult living in the house either. Have a look.
Alright, so break it down again. Where is it? There's the arm.
Arm, leg. There's gonna be another leg walking here.
You see it go over the snow.
Arm, leg, and another leg.
So if that's a leg, what's that? Is that the baby with somebody?
At the moment, they don't believe it's anything dangerous. In their view, with the number of dogs constantly in the house, any real threat, especially something physical, would have triggered a reaction. Dogs are known for their sensitivity to unfamiliar presence, and if something was truly there, they assume the animals would have barked, reacted, or shown signs of distress. But that assumption is exactly what unsettles some viewers. Some theories suggest that certain entities don't register as physical threats, meaning they can exist within a space without triggering the usual instincts in animals. Others believe that if something is subtle enough, it can move through an environment without drawing attention. And then there's a more unsettling possibility that whatever the camera is picking up is already familiar with the space, familiar enough not to disturb the dogs, and familiar enough to move without being challenged. What do you think about this? Or are there some other reasons we're not seeing? The following video was captured by a CCTV camera at Ronald's workplace, a location that, according to several employees, had already been the subject of quiet conversations long before this footage ever surfaced, with workers occasionally mentioning glimpses of black shapes passing through hallways, reflections that didn't match anyone present, and that lingering feeling of being watched even in areas covered by cameras. But it wasn't until this clip went viral that those concerns became impossible to ignore, with many employees reportedly pressuring management to take action, convinced that whatever had been dismissed as imagination was now clearly visible on camera. Watch closely.
Laki nga yun, bukas na. Sasara niya ng bigla yan kasi nga, ganun ba? Ang talagay mo sa kitala yan. Talagay mo sa... Alam mo, ano kami yun? Ayun na. Oh, kita mo ako paano sa market dito? Ay, hindi. Ang pakayumaga. Ay, papal niya na. Okay, ang lakas nun sa kanya, no?
Dark shapes move through the space, and some viewers believe it's actually one shadow, moving so quickly and unpredictably that it creates the illusion of multiple figures. Others are convinced it's something far more unsettling, that these are multiple shadows, different entities moving within the same space, overlapping, crossing paths, each one existing independently. You be the judge. The following clip was captured by Amanda, who's had some of the strangest encounters inside her home. About 2 weeks after she moved in, she woke up one morning to shocking news. A body had been found in her backyard. And according to Amanda, ever since that day, the house hasn't felt the same. Have a look.
I am freaked the f out. I just got home and tell me why my chairs are like this. Like what the f. I literally still have my coat on. I come walking through the fucking... Oh my god. I'm like shaking right now. I just went and dropped my daughter off to her dad's house. And all the chairs were around the table. What the f. Oh my god. I need to call my mom.
Chairs don't end up like this by accident, and this is not something caused by drafts, pets, or structural shifts. In paranormal discussions, this kind of activity is often linked to an intelligence trying to be noticed, especially when the setup is visually striking rather than destructive. Since then, Amanda says doors open on their own, lights flicker and malfunction, and the house feels different, heavier, quieter, like something is always just out of view. Some believe the discovery of the body may have triggered residual energy tied to trauma, while others think the attention and disturbance surrounding the property may have awakened something that was already there. Skeptics argue stress and fear can heighten awareness, making ordinary issues feel sinister, but others point out that recurring physical changes, especially ones involving multiple objects, are harder to dismiss. Now, Amanda just wants to know one thing. Is there a chance this all has a normal explanation? Or is this a situation that requires real intervention before it escalates? What do you think? This next video was captured by a family's security camera, installed after everyone in the house woke up to a loud bang in the middle of the night, followed by several other unsettling incidents they couldn't explain. Hoping to catch whatever was happening, they set up cameras. Take a look. Aside from the obvious breathing sound, viewers immediately notice something else. On the right side of the screen, along the staircase, something moved. When the family reviewed this footage, it made other moments fall into place. Just weeks earlier, the sister of one of the couples living here called her and asked what she was doing standing on her front porch. Now here's the problem. She wasn't home. She was at work, nowhere near the house. But the anxiety in the house escalated when the family noticed their dogs reacting. Watch this.
What is wrong, Carla? Stop arguing. Connor! Knock it off! Hey! Barking at the door again. No one's there. Go qui. No one's there, honey. Nobody's here. It's all good. It's all good in the hood.
The dog repeatedly barks at the door, staring at it with focus. Not playful, not distracted, but locked in, as if responding to something it can sense but humans can't. Animals are often said to react to subtle changes in energy, sound frequencies, or presence long before people do. And when pets fixate on empty spaces, doors, or corners, many believe it's because something unseen has crossed into our world. And if you look at the activities they've experienced, the breathing caught on camera, the movement on the stairs, the mimic sighting on the porch, and the dogs reacting, this no longer feels like a single incident. It feels like a pattern. So could this be heightened anxiety and coincidence? Or is something inside the house slowly making itself known, watching, copying, and waiting? You decide. Now, in this next video, Nate, who's been trying to get to the bottom of whatever is happening inside his house, captures something new on camera. By now, his experiences follow a disturbing pattern. He wakes up to objects scattered across his kitchen floor, his dog refuses to enter certain corners of the house, and the sound of footsteps moving along the stairs when no one else is home. One night, while waiting for a UFC fight to start, he begins hearing something unusual. Listen closely.
Guys, I want you guys to check this out. So, I'm just chilling here, waiting for the UFC fights to start. Dog's there. And I'm just sitting here. I was re-racking my weights. And I was hearing the scratching. And it sounded like it was coming from like right in front of me. But I don't see anything. Like, up. I heard it. But I was like looking. And it sounded like it was coming from like... You hear that? What the f is that? It sounded like it was coming from like right in front here, but I don't see anything else. What the f? Like, I have no clue.
Hearing scratching or dragging sounds can mean something is trying to mark territory or test physical boundaries, especially when it happens repeatedly in the same areas of a home. Another detail viewers couldn't ignore is Nate's environment. His house is almost always dark. Many believe prolonged darkness, cluttered spaces, and low lighting can make activity feel stronger, either by heightening fear or, according to paranormal belief, by creating conditions where negative entities feel more comfortable. Another night, a different sound woke him. This time, it wasn't scratching, it was stomping, and when Nate got up to check the house, this happened.
Hey guys. So I was upstairs and was woken up to the sound of stomping down here. I mean, loud stomping. It is currently 2:52 a.m. So it's a little before 3 a.m. And the weird thing about it is when I woke up to the sound of the stomping, the dog was sleeping, not even alerted. It's almost like she couldn't hear it. So, as soon as I came down, I walked into like a cold spot. Felt like a certain area was cold. But it was loud. It was such a loud stomp. Like I said, it's 2:53 a.m.
Scratching, stomping, footsteps, all familiar at this point. But what truly unsettled him was something else entirely. His dog didn't react. Normally, animals respond instantly to loud physical sounds, yet during the stomping, his dog remained unusually calm, as if it either couldn't hear it or didn't perceive it the same way Nate did. Some believe the dog may have already learned to avoid reacting, but this concern quickly became secondary. Because the next morning, Nate woke up to something far more disturbing: scratches on his body. If this had happened once, it's easy to say he accidentally scratched himself while he was asleep, a reaction to fabric, even stress-related skin irritation. But it didn't stop. It kept happening, and on the morning after the stomping incident, he recorded this. Watch.
So the people that were asking for a better view of the scratch that I woke up with on my leg, here it is. Like I said, it's not super deep, but it goes down pretty far. And I also noticed on the opposite side, I have two here on the same leg, but on the opposite side, that I woke up this morning with. Now, these ones didn't burn as bad as this one. This one was 2 mornings ago when I woke up. This burned, and I looked down and saw that. And then this morning when I got up at like 2:30 a.m., I woke up to stomping downstairs. And it wasn't until after I worked out and everything that I noticed these. So, yeah, that's the update.
As Nate shows the marks on his body, many viewers begin connecting everything. The scratching sounds at night, the dragging noises, the stomping footsteps, and now physical marks appearing while he sleeps. This points to something more than a simple house haunting. Physical interaction, especially repeated scratching, is often cited in cases involving attachments rather than locations. Some believe this points towards something escalating, moving from environmental disturbances to personal interaction. Others think whatever is in the house may be trying to assert control, feeding on fear, isolation, or even exhaustion. And the most disturbing part, the activity isn't random anymore. It's consistent, and it's getting closer. So whether it's an attachment, an oppressive presence, or something feeding off the darkness and silence, one thing is clear. Whatever this is, it's no longer staying in the shadows. And until Nate gets answers, this case remains deeply unsettling and completely unsolved. In the following video, a woman's first son is home alone, quietly watching TV when he suddenly hears someone call his name. At first, he doesn't think much of it, until he responds and hears the voice again. This time, it sounds exactly like his little brother. Watch.
Hola. ¿Quién es? Soy yo. ¿Tú? ¿Quieres jugar a la pelota? Pero la Chu no se había ido al médico con mi madre. ¡Hijo de p***!
Hola, Michael. No, si la Chu está acá en el médico, estamos en el médico acá, vamos a demorar un poco para llegar. No estamos en casa.
The confusion sets in immediately. His brother isn't home, he's at the hospital with their mother, waiting to see a doctor. So there's no possible reason for his voice to be inside the house. But many viewers believe he didn't handle the situation well when he responded. In paranormal folklore, responding to a voice you can't verify is often considered a mistake, especially when the voice belongs to someone who physically isn't there. Many believe mimics rely on acknowledgement, and once you answer, you're confirming awareness, opening the door for further interaction. That's why one of the most repeated rules in cases like this is simple: don't respond, don't investigate, and don't follow the voice. As for what this could be, most people landed on 2 possibilities: a mimic or a doppelganger. And while the terms are often used interchangeably online, there's an important difference. A mimic imitates voices to provoke a response. It doesn't need to be seen. It feeds on confusion and fear, using familiar voices to draw someone in, often calling names or repeating phrases. Also, it's usually heard before it's ever seen, if it's seen at all. A doppelganger, on the other hand, is typically visual. It's believed to appear as a full physical copy of a person, seen walking, standing, or watching, sometimes even interacting briefly before disappearing. Doppelgangers are less about sound and more about presence. In this case, there's no figure, no visual confirmation, just a voice, perfectly copied, calling out from inside the house. That leans heavily toward a mimic, and once a voice knows you'll answer, it rarely stops calling. So, which was it? You decide. Now, in this next clip, popular Midwest ghost hunter Ian continues his investigation inside the infamous Boyd house. At this point, he's still inside the room with the haunted painting, the same room where the power mysteriously died the moment the artwork was brought in. Earlier, Ian heard a heavy dragging sound echo through the room. Most people would have left immediately, but Ian didn't. Instead of backing out, he stayed put and began slowly scanning the room, hoping to capture something. Watch closely.
See if anyone's out in the hallway here. Oh my god. Calm down. Oh, calm down. That sounded like a growl. And worst of all, it came from that closet that I was just in. Okay. Oh gosh. Oh gosh. Oh, whoa, what the hell is that? Dude, what the oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. Oh my god. Okay, I'm ready to get the hell out of here. There's something in there. There's something in there.
Aside from the low, unsettling growl that can be heard, something far more disturbing appears on his thermal camera. When you look closer, the shape resembles a distorted human face, and this room has a long history of activity. Ever since that painting arrived, the disturbances seem to center there. No electricity, sudden noises, and now, a possible manifestation. Many believe cursed objects can act as anchors, giving something a place to attach itself, feed from, and eventually show itself. If that's true, then this raises an unsettling question. Was this the first time the entity tied to the painting allowed itself to be seen? Or has it always been there, just waiting for someone to stay long enough to notice it? For more haunting videos, including Ian, subscribe to the channel now.